When it comes to the opioid crisis, Donald Trump isn't exactly shy about placing blame.
Our southern border is a pipeline for vast quantities of illegal drugs. Every week, 300 of our citizens are killed by heroin alone, 90% of which floods across from our southern border.
Never mind that most of the drugs he's talking about come in at legal points of entry or by mail from China, so Wall would do little to curb the crisis. But Attorney General Maura Healey knows something that might. Last June, she filed a lawsuit against Purdue Pharma, they're the makers of OxyContin, part of the opioid class of drugs responsible for killing an average of 130 Americans a day.
Purdue engaged in a multi-billion-dollar enterprise to mislead us about their drugs. Their strategy was simple. The more drugs they sold, the more money they made, and the more people died.
Now Healey's taking things a big step further, directly implicating the owners of Purdue, the Sackler family, in those deaths. And yes, those are the same Sacklers whose names adorn a museum at Harvard and 2 schools at Tufts, although Somerville is now pushing to change that. But if you've never heard of them, the big thing to know is that they have become obscenely wealthy, in great part from selling OxyContin. In a 312-page memorandum filed last week, Healey claims the Sacklers in Purdue, quote, assured patients and doctors that opioid medications are not addictive, even though they clearly are. And Healey said the company specifically targeted elderly patients, claiming they were especially likely to benefit from opioids, when in fact they knew that prescribing opioids to elderly patients increases their risk of death. Then there were gifts, the coffee, catered lunches, cash given to more than 2,000 high-prescribing Massachusetts doctors, all the exact kinds of practices a study out last week from Boston Medical Center and the NYU School of Medicine found increases the risk of overdose deaths. But the worst was an email then-President Richard Sackler wrote in 2001 blaming the addicts themselves and instructing sales reps to, quote, hammer on the abusers in every way possible. They are the culprits and the problem, he wrote. They are reckless criminals. Yes, there are reckless criminals in this saga, but as I'm sure you know, Mr. Sackler, you're looking in the wrong place.